The night I crashed in Mason's dorm, I really didn't think twice about it. I had no idea it'd be the night everything between us changed. We weren't even that close at the time. Friends, sure. We'd met in a statistics class sophomore year, and I guess we just kept running into each other around campus after that. Same major, same dumb sense of humor, same go-to deli off campus. But we weren't sleepover close. Not until that Friday. It was pouring rain, my off-campus apartment had lost power, and my roommate was out of town with her girlfriend. I didn't want to sit in the dark with dying phone battery and zero Wi-Fi. Mason had casually offered his dorm earlier that day, half joking, I think. If your place gets spooky, I got an empty mattress, just saying. So I texted him around 9. Hey, still got space for a roommate tonight? He replied a minute later. Always. Bring snacks. I threw on a hoodie, packed a charger and a toothbrush, and biked across campus through puddles and wind. By the time I knocked on Mason's door, I was soaked and cranky. He just laughed when he opened it. Dude, you look like you fought the storm and lost. He tossed me a towel and pulled me into the warm, dry chaos of his dorm. His roommate was gone for the weekend, some debate tournament in D.C., so I had the whole other bed to myself. The room smelled like laundry detergent and pizza, and there were LED strip lights casting a soft blue glow across the walls. It felt like a cave, in a good way. We spent the night playing FIFA, eating microwave burritos, and complaining about our upcoming finals. Nothing unusual. Mason was easy to talk to, that kind of guy who always felt like he was on the verge of laughing at something. Wavy hair he never brushed, hoodies too big for his frame, long legs always sprawled out in the middle of wherever you were trying to walk. I didn't realize how late it had gotten until I blinked at the clock and saw it was past 2. Mason rubbed his eyes, tossed his controller onto the floor, and stood up, stretching until his shirt rode up just enough to show a sliver of stomach. You good with the spare bed? He asked, yawning. Sheets might smell like old weed and my roommate's shampoo, but, free. I shrugged. Better than sitting in the dark with no heat. He gave me a sleepy smile and started pulling off his shirt. Fair. I looked away, a little too fast, suddenly focused on plugging in my phone. I didn't usually think about Mason like that. Or at least, I didn't let myself. I wasn't sure if he was straight or just oblivious, but nothing he ever did gave me the green light to let those thoughts in. We turned off the lights. Mason flopped into his bed with a groan. I rolled into the spare and wrapped the blanket around myself, still a little damp but warm for the first time all night. Thanks again, I mumbled. Anytime, man, he said, voice low with sleep. Seriously? I didn't know I was going to wake up to his hand on me. I didn't know that whatever invisible wall had been between us was about to crack wide open. At first, I thought I was dreaming. There was this strange warmth against my side, familiar but out of place. I was half asleep, tucked in the dorm bed, the hum of the radiator clicking quietly in the background. I shifted slightly, and that's when I realized something wasn't right. There was a hand on my waist. Not mine, not an accidental brush. No, this was intentional. Still, warm, firm. My breath caught. My body froze. Was I imagining this? I cracked one eye open. The room was dim, lit only by the faint bluish glow of Mason's LED strips bouncing off the ceiling. Everything looked normal. Both beds, clothes on the floor, my charger light blinking faintly. But there he was, Mason. Not in his bed. He was in mine, spooning me. His chest pressed softly to my back, legs tangled lightly with mine, his breath slow and steady against the back of my neck. And his hand, resting low on my waist, fingers curved just slightly, like they'd been there a while. I didn't move. Couldn't. My heart was thudding hard in my chest, loud enough I was scared he could hear it. I tried to stay still, tried to process what was happening. Was he sleepwalking? Was this some drunk, half-conscious mistake? Or was it on purpose? I waited, counting the seconds. 5, 10, 15. His thumb moved. Just a slight rub. Barely there, but unmistakable. That wasn't sleepwalking. I turned my head slightly, trying to see his face over my shoulder. I couldn't see much, just the shadow of his jaw, the mess of his hair. He didn't say anything. just stayed close, his breath brushing my skin. I could feel the heat of him through the thin fabric of my t-shirt. "Mason?" I whispered, barely audible. His body stiffened behind me for half a second, like he'd been caught doing something he hadn't meant to. Then, quietly, "You're awake?" His voice wasn't groggy. It wasn't confused. It was nervous. I didn't answer. I didn't know how to. My mind was spinning. I wasn't scared, just thrown. This was Mason. The guy I had never dared to think about like that. Not seriously. The guy I'd convinced myself wouldn't ever look at me that way. But here he was, pressed up against me like we'd done this 100 times. He didn't move away. "I thought you were asleep," he said again, this time softer. His hand lingered, still warm on my side. I swallowed hard, my voice caught somewhere between sleep and disbelief. "Were you trying to?" He let out a breath. Not quite a sigh. More like he'd been holding it. "I wasn't trying to be weird," he murmured. I don't know, you looked cold." I almost laughed. Cold? That was the excuse? But his voice, there was something real in it. He sounded nervous, unsure. Not like the Mason who usually made a joke out of everything. Not like the guy who walked around campus like nothing ever touched him. "Are you cold now?" he asked, like he was still trying to justify it. "No," I said. My voice was low, uncertain. But I didn't move. I didn't pull away. He didn't either. We lay there for what felt like hours, but it was probably just minutes. Close. Still. His fingers twitching slightly, like he wanted to do something but didn't quite have permission yet. My heart was still racing. Then he whispered, "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to freak you out." He started to shift back, but I caught his hand, and I didn't let go. When I grabbed his hand, neither of us moved. He stilled behind me, the warmth of his body hovering just inches away. I didn't even know what I was doing, just that letting him back away felt like the wrong thing. Like if I did, we'd pretend none of it had happened, and I wasn't ready for that. His voice was barely a whisper. "You sure?" No idea. I wasn't. My brain was still chasing itself in circles, trying to figure out how the hell we got here. But I didn't let go. Instead, I turned to face him. It was awkward. The bed, too small for two guys our size. But I shifted carefully, lying on my side so we were face to face. His eyes were open now, wide, searching mine in the blue-lit dark. He looked exposed, more vulnerable than I'd ever seen him. "I don't know what's going on," I admitted. "But don't go back to the other bed." He exhaled like I'd just unblocked his lungs. Then he nodded, once. "Okay." We lay like that for a while, facing each other. His hand hovered between us, unsure where to go. Mine was resting against my chest, fingers twitching. And then, slowly, like he was waiting for me to stop him, he reached out and touched my wrist. It wasn't physical, wasn't anything more than skin on skin. But it felt more intimate than anything that had come before. "I didn't plan this," he said, eyes still on mine. I figured. "It's not like I've never done anything with a guy." I blinked. That admission came out of nowhere. "Oh?" he swallowed. "Yeah, just once. Last year. Spring break. I never told anyone. Didn't think it meant anything." "Did it?" "I don't know," he said. "I tried not to think about it. But then you started hanging out again this semester and—" He trailed off. I didn't push. I just watched him, trying to match this quiet version of Mason with the guy the first thought I knew. "What about you?" he asked after a moment. "I've been with guys before, but never like this." "Like what?" "Where it's not something casual." He nodded slowly, the edge of his knee brushing mine. We were tangled now, even without meaning to be. My leg over his hand resting on the curve of my elbow. We were just lying there. Close. Quiet. Breathing the same air. And something about that felt heavier than anything physical. "Are we going to talk about this tomorrow?" he asked. "You mean like normal humans?" He let out a quiet laugh. "Yeah, I looked at him. Really looked. His expression was unreadable, but not because he was hiding anything. It was because he didn't know what came next either. I reached up and tucked a bit of his hair behind his ear. Let's figure it out then. His eyes closed for a second, like that small gesture hit harder than I meant it to. And when they opened again, he was looking at me like maybe, just maybe. I wasn't the only one who'd been wondering about this for longer than I wanted to admit. I didn't sleep much after that. Neither did Mason, I don't think. We lay there, quiet, maybe dozing off for a few minutes at a time, but always waking up still tangled together. I kept waiting for the awkwardness to kick in, the regret, the mental rewind that makes everything weird. It never came. In the pale morning light filtering through his dorm blinds, I opened my eyes to find him still facing me. Hair messy, eyes soft. "Morning," he said, voice hoarse. "Hey." Neither of us moved, not away anyway. "I didn't dream that, right?" he asked. "Nope." "Shit," he said. Then he smiled. "Good." I couldn't help it. I laughed. It was the first real exhale I'd had in hours. We eventually climbed out of bed because we had to. Nature calls in college dorms don't smell better the longer you marinate in them. Mason handed me a clean hoodie and a spare toothbrush, and we went about the morning like we weren't actively trying to decode whatever the hell happened overnight. Still, everything felt different. Not tense, just electric. Like a string between us was taut in a way it hadn't been before. I watched him brush his teeth, leaning against the wall by the door. He caught me looking and raised an eyebrow. "What?" I shrugged. "Just weird seeing you this quiet." "Yeah, well, I'm still processing the part where I crawled into your bed at 3 a.m. and got caught." "Caught touching me." He winced a little. "Okay, that too." I stepped closer, grabbed a hand towel, and smacked him gently with it. "You're not off the hook, you know." Yeah, he said, mouth full of toothpaste. "Interrogation later." "Count on it." By the time we were dressed and walking across campus to grab bagels, things felt almost normal again. Except now, our arms kept brushing as we walked, and neither of us moved away. We didn't talk about what we were. Not yet. That part felt too big to rush, but we didn't ignore it either. Later that afternoon, I was sitting on his bed while he scrolled through Spotify, trying to pick music to drown out the awkward silence of the dorm next door. He looked over at me. "So, this thing, you and me, yeah? I don't know what I'm doing." "Me either. But I liked waking up next to you." I nodded. "Same." He paused. "So maybe we do it again sometime? Crash together or the other thing?" He smirked. "Both?" I tossed a pillow at his head. "Start with bagels and FIFA. We'll see where it goes." We never really talked about it again. Not for a while. After that night, there was this strange kind of agreement between us. Silent, but understood. He didn't go back to his own bed after that. I didn't ask him to. And somehow, it didn't feel weird. At first, we told ourselves it was just about sleep, comfort, warmth. Whatever excuse made it easier to slip into that space next to each other at the end of the day. But comfort doesn't usually involve holding someone under the covers or pressing your lips to their shoulder just before falling asleep. That started about a week later. We were both up late, half working, half procrastinating. Me on a paper, Mason editing photos on his laptop. I think it was past 2 a.m. when he finally shut his screen and muttered, "Screw this, I'm done." He pulled his shirt off, dropped it on the floor, and crawled into the bed next to me like it was his. It kind of was by then. I shut my laptop and rolled over to face him. "Rough night?" I asked. He didn't say anything at first, just looked at me. And then, softly, like it had been waiting all day, he leaned forward and kissed me, no warning. No buildup. Just his lips brushing against mine like it was the most natural thing in the world. It wasn't a heavy kiss. It didn't feel like a confession or an explosion. It was careful, almost hesitant, like he wasn't sure if he had the right, but he really, really hoped I'd let him. I kissed him back, and when I did, he relaxed, just a little. He pulled back after a moment, eyes still locked on mine. "That okay?" he asked. "Yeah," I said quietly. "Okay." He settled back down next to me, closer this time. His fingers found mine under the blanket. No big speeches, no dramatic heart spilling. But after that night, it stopped being just about sleep. Weeks went by. We still weren't together, not in any label-heavy way. Mason never said boyfriend, and I didn't push. We had finals coming, group projects to finish, and internships to apply for. Real life kept moving, but at night, I'd still end up in his bed, or he'd end up in mine. Sometimes we kissed. Sometimes we didn't. Some nights we just lay there, listening to his playlist on repeat, his arm draped loosely over my waist like he forgot it was there. One Thursday night, we were at a party off campus. Some guy from Mason's photography class had a rooftop setup. Fairy lights, cheap beer, the whole thing. I wasn't planning to stay long, but Mason tugged me aside while everyone else was watching someone freestyle over lo-fi beats. "You okay?" he asked, hand brushing my elbow. I nodded. "Just kinda overstimulated, I guess," he smirked. "Wanna leave?" I hesitated, but then he leaned in, close enough that no one could hear him except me. "We don't have to do anything. Just crash, watch a movie, sleep." God, the way he said sleep. I nodded. 20 minutes later, we were walking back to his dorm, quiet under the streetlights. Neither of us said much, but he kept glancing at me like he wanted to. When we finally reached his room, he locked the door behind us, then just stood there for a second, back against the door like he wasn't sure what happened next. Then he looked at me and said, "You're the only part of this that doesn't stress me out." I blinked. "What do you mean?" "Everything else. School, deadlines, figuring out life after May. It all feels like too much. But you?" He stepped closer. "You just make sense." I didn't have anything clever to say. So I kissed him. And this time, it wasn't hesitant. It was slow, deep, messy, in the way that comes from holding back for too long. His hands found my waist, mine tangled in the back of his shirt. He made this quiet noise when I bit his bottom lip, and that noise did something to me I didn't want to admit. We didn't sleep right away that night. And when we finally did, it wasn't just about being warm. It was about being wanted. By the time spring rolled around, crashing in Mason's dorm wasn't crashing anymore. It was just where I slept. His roommate stopped asking questions. Our friends didn't comment when we started showing up places together. Sitting closer than before. Splitting drinks. Finishing each other's fries. I think everyone else caught on before we said it out loud. We still hadn't talked labels. But one Sunday morning, after a night that had been more than something casual, more tender, more hours, I was brushing my teeth while Mason sat on his bed, scrolling through his camera roll. He paused on a photo of us at a coffee shop, one I didn't even know he'd taken. I was mid-laugh, leaning toward him, and he was just looking at me, like nothing else mattered. He held the phone up. "You like this one?" I rinsed my mouth, wiped my face on his towel. "Yeah, you do good work." He smiled, then set the phone down. "I've been thinking about something." My heart ticked up a beat. "Okay." He scratched the back of his neck. "You ever think maybe we should stop pretending this is just a sometimes thing?" I blinked. "You mean?" "Yeah," he said, standing up. "I like you. I don't want to date other people. I don't even think about other people." My mouth opened. Nothing came out for a second. Then I laughed, a little too hard. "Jesus, Mason. Took you long enough." He stepped closer, bumping my hip with his. "So that a yes?" I nodded. "Yeah, that's a yes." He kissed me right there, toothpaste breath and all. And just like that, what started as a night of convenience turned into something real, something steady, something that felt a lot like love.